Is there any public comment? All right, thank you. Well, hearing none, we'll move along. Okay, we need members to declare the conflicts of interest. Noted, 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 DISD. Okay. And Rebecca's online. All right, thank you. All right, so we have those noted. Today is a very, 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 very special day. And being a special day, I wanted to do something special on this special day. And one of the things that you get to do at this position, Harry, is to be an observer. And as I observe a lot of things. And one of the things I observed was one of our members, and I wanted to call attention to that member and make a special award for her today. As I prepare to conclude my tenure as chair of the board, I find myself reflecting on many things from this vantage point. And serving this role has been an extraordinary experience, one that offered both challenges and profound insights. One of the strategies I embraced during my chair was to bring our meetings to the heart of the community. And thanks to generous partners like Dallas College, DISD, the Omni Hotel, Goodwill Industries, we were able to move our meetings around town. And I felt like that was really important for this organization. What I didn't realize at the time was that this approach, while enriching our board, placed an unintended burden on one of our directors. Yet this director never voiced a single objection. Her commitment has been unwavering. I cannot recall a meeting that she has missed. However, she told me she was going to miss this meeting. We called her bosses, and she's here. Her presence has been a consistent source of strength and inspiration, not just to me, but this entire board. She represents a vital segment of our community, those served through vocational rehabilitation, VR, in our workforce center. This population is crucial to our mission, and I applaud our state legislator for placing VR and childcare at the center of our workforce system. At this final meeting as workforce chair of Dallas County, I want to recognize someone truly special, Rolinda Duran. For her inspiring dedication, unwavering perseverance to the greater Dallas Workforce Solutions Board of Directors. Her service exemplifies the values we hold dear. When I think of what Rolinda represents, I'm reminded of these timeless words. Whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is praiseworthy, think about these things. Rolinda, you are all these things. Congratulations. From you all morning. Okay, we'll move.
There are a few people in Dallas that I instinctively say yes to, sight unseen, facts unknown. I just say yes. And two of those people came to me at some point and said, will you join this thing called Workforce Solutions Greater Dallas? I've never heard of it. I said yes. And I did that because I trust those people implicitly that they have the greater good in mind and that we all do better when we all do better. But it also afforded me meeting a person that I might, if I had known this in due diligence, I might have had more questions. I met a man named Carter Holston. And over the 3 or 4 years that I've known him, I have come to see that that was a very powerful yes, because my yes led me to be in relationship with Carter for early morning coffees, late night audios, scratchings on envelopes, concepts. And Carter, my brother, I can tell you this: you embody our name. You are a force. You work. You are obsessed with solutions. You want Dallas to be greater, but not in that bad way. You want greatness that is generous. You want something that embodies you: wise, focused, decent, a man full of integrity. And let me tell you, in this chair, next to the chair, you know what someone's integrity is, not a shortcut person. And so now you join that group that Lynn McBee inhabits, where if you say yes to me, I'm going to say yes, and I'm not going to ask you too many questions. I do think it's going to be hard to get that gavel out of your hands, out of your cold, dead, clutching hands. So we got a solution. We made it transparent, because you're a transparency guy. Behold, a transparent gavel, the permanent gavel. Carter Holston, I love you, brother. Careful.
Well, I feel like I should say a few words. On November 19th of 1863, a renowned orator, Edward Everett, spoke for 2 hours at the dedication of the National Cemetery in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. He was followed by Abraham Lincoln, who spoke for 2 minutes, delivering what is now known as the Gettysburg Address. I hope my remarks this morning are more like President Lincoln's. I want to extend my deepest gratitude to our incredible staff. Your support throughout my term as chair has been the backbone of everything we have accomplished. You are the ones that have done the heavy lifting, and I thank you for your dedication and professionalism. Now, run your race with perseverance and endurance and press forward, keeping your eyes fixed on the goal. To my fellow board members, thank you for your steadfast commitment to workforce development in Dallas. Your service has made a lasting impact on our community, and it's been an honor to serve alongside you. I'd like to thank my former employer, NEC, for allowing me the flexibility to dedicate time to this organization. To my wife, thank you for your patience and understanding as the role required extra calls at night, travel places like DC and Austin. And special thanks to Judge Jenkins for appointing me and entrusting me with this responsibility. Thanks also to his staff, Lauren and Jason, for allowing me to complete access. And believe me, it was necessary at times, and I truly consider that a privilege to serve. Harry, I know you'll lead the board with integrity, compassion, and goodness. You have my very best wishes. And to Ashley, thank you for your steady hand of leadership during this amazing transition. Connie and Demetria, thank you for your support and confidence. It appears my 2 minutes are up. I regret that I cannot see the completion of the search for the new CEO of Workforce Dallas. I very much wanted to see this last matter closed. I'm hopeful that the entire board will come together with one voice when the candidate is found. Goodbye seems too final, but I know that this is the perfect time for me to step aside. I wish you all much success and God bless you all. Thank you. We'll recognize the nominations committee.
All right, good morning, everyone. I want to echo Harry's comments about Carter and all the other comments that have been made. Carter, your contributions here have just been immeasurable, and we can't thank you enough for all of your leadership, taking on some significant issues and carrying us through. So we can't thank you enough. Really appreciate that. All right, so as a result, I will have to criticize Carter once again, as I often do. He assumed that we already have someone that's going to succeed him as chair, but that does not happen unless we approve that. So, but with regards to that, Carter appointed a nominating committee. Nominating committee met back on September 5th. That included Bill O'Dwyer, Dan Mitchkay, Connie Rash, myself. In this meeting, we had several others on the nominating committee, including Bill Barrett, and I think Joanne Caruso. But we met, and after discussion, we came to the conclusion that we had a recommendation for a slate of officers, and later formalized those proposed recommendations. And this slate we are proposing for the 25 to 27 timeframe. However, we will reassess this at the end of 2026. And so our proposed slate of officers, which is on page 9 of your packet, is Chair Harry Jones, Vice Chair Rebecca Acuna, Treasurer Bessie Gray, past Chair Bill O'Dwyer. Then I will recognize Bill O'Dwyer in the sense that he's not officially the immediate past board chair, but he is the past board chair with Carter's departure. So he was the chair prior to Carter. So unfortunately, Bill is going to have to roll off of our board a year from now. And so that's one reason why we need to reassess this slate of officers at the end of next year. So with that, the nominating committee would like to recommend and put for your approval the acceptance of this slate of officers, effective immediately and going through September of, September of 2026.
Okay, could we get a second to that motion? Okay, Dan? All right, and all in favor of the slate that's been proposed, signify aye. Anyone opposed? Happiest? No. Harry, congratulations.
You might wonder why there's a diver's helmet from 100 years ago on the screen behind me. Back when I ran my own law firm for quite a while, I tired of things that I thought were playing office, peripheral issues, and distractions, refereeing disputes that were of no consequence. And so I started thinking about what it would have been like to be a diver back in the old days. I have a 65-pound copper helmet secured by bolts so airtight and watertight that you could go down there in the bottom, whether you were searching for oysters or fixing a ship, finding treasure, and not be completely paranoid at all times. The suit, the boots, 300 pounds of copper holding you down at the bottom of the ocean. 1 second, 1 millimeter away from death at all times. How much would you focus on three things? Number one, I don't care how shiny my helmet was, how pretty it was, is it functional? Is my money good? Okay, compliance. That guy, that woman on the shore who's got all the oxygen tanks and with my little tug on the air hose knows it's time to give me another one, boy, I hope my relationship is good with that person. Funding. That air hose is everything in between. Relationships with you, with each other, with the city, with the mayor, with the judge, with the employers, with capital, with labor, with our future, with our past. I don't want any frayed edges. I don't want any rubber worn thin. We're going to take care of problems really quickly. So when people came into my office and wanted to talk about something, I'd say, is that an air hose issue? And then the conversation would be a lot better. If it was something else, like how shiny my boots were, I wasn't that interested. My vision's not going to be that much different from my predecessor. Carter and I see things very similarly, but we know when things are air hose issues. We might have a different way to solve that, replace it, find a better one, but we know it's air hose or not. I commit to you to be a chair that will lead with respect, respect for all those component parts, for those relationships, respect for your time, respect for the people we actually serve, to have our org chart properly sized with the people that we think are on the bottom in the city. Sometimes they're on the top. Let's get them more on the top. On time, on point, on the ball, on message, on the same page, hard on ourselves, so that everyone else's life's a bit better. We don't want to ever get to the place where we're complacent. That's a danger for us, and we need to have all those component parts healthy and strong. I'm so pleased that Rebecca Acuna is going to be part of that. A person that knows infinitely more than I do about the nuts and bolts of this, the helmet, she's got it covered. Bessie Gray, filling the gap, an ethicist of a high order, our oxygen tank, our air hose, and then Bill O'Dwyer, forever now, past and future officer of some kind. Also, a fantastic guy to have in a crunch. He's your guy in the foxhole. So without further ado, I just want to say that I'm really happy to serve in this way. Grateful for the mayor and Lynn McBee, who sits today next to my daughter, which is kind of charming. Get to know each other. I'm happy to serve you in this way. And also, I'm going to make sure that when you get up to speak and you present during my tenure, I want you to get to the point. I want you to speak loud and clear, make sure everyone hears you, respect everyone else's hearing. And we're never going to hide from bad numbers. We're going to dive right into them. And so there's no reason for the diver and the oxygen tank person to talk about how well things are going. That's implicit. We want to talk about things that might get us caught. All right. Thank you very much.
All right, good morning. Consent agenda begins on page 11 of your board packet with minutes from last month. Page 14, we have the policy adopting state rule. These, of course, have no local flexibility. A lot of these are this month have to do with annual rules that come forward. For example, the first one is about childcare provider payment rates for 2026. That year starts October 1st. Now, at the bottom of that chart, we do have one item with local policy flexibility. This is a request to approve increasing the self-sufficiency wage to $18.50 per hour. Rebecca Acuna presented this last month in her committee report. This has been to the Achievement Alliance Committee in August, so you've all already discussed that. Part C at the bottom of page 14 is contract amendments. We have an agency board agreement, ABA, with TWC, which is the overarching agreement for all of our grants. We brought this to you in the spring because we knew that some changes were coming to the ABA. It's a 3-year contract, and of course, we can get amendments throughout that time. This is the start of a new 3-year contract. And you all approved those potential changes that we expected to see. But when we received the ABA, there were some more changes that are outlined on the next couple of pages of your board packet. This has been through our legal. They have approved it. The basis of most of these changes are things that are already in law and are now being reflected in the ABA. But Reed is here, of course, if you have any questions on those. And then if you skip over to page 18, we see external grants and partnerships. Lots of times this chart is related to community partners for which we support going after a grant. This time we have a couple of items. The top two are grants we're applying for. First one is with Texas Mutual for $100,000 for advancing safety and opportunity in logistics through paid work-based learning. Second one is also a grant we're applying for with TWC. We received this grant for the first time this past year for teacher externships. So that program went on during the summer and we're applying for it for a second year. That brings us to the end of the consent agenda.
Do I move? Do I ask for a motion? Do I use the gavel? Do I hear a motion on the consent agenda? Thank you, Bill. Second, Daniel. Any discussion? Or do we move to vote? Yep. Ken.
These are just simply, it's not giving out these grants.
Correct. Ken's question, for those of you online, is on external grants and partnerships. These are grants we're applying for, not grants that we're giving out. So even the bottom grant there, the resources, the Texas Workforce Commission that Child Care Group is applying for, we're just supporting that.
Okay, now I have the vote. Those say aye. Nay. Any abstentions or conflicts? Okay. Consent agenda is approved. Now we move into a closed session, is that right? Sorry, members of the public, we're gonna have to now move into closed session. But welcome to the refreshments in the next room. Open until Ken's in. Oh, really? Okay, let's gavel ourselves in. Okay, we are back in open session under Texas law. Ashley, would you please sort of take us through where we're going next? We did have closed session to discuss a lease, another lease, an assessment, and executive search.
Yes. So now that we're back in closed session, we would like to take a vote on the two leases, the Irving Center lease, and then moving forward with negotiations and being able to sign the Dallas College satellite lease.
Clarification by Daniel. Okay, so moved by Dan, seconded by Bill. Do we have a vote for ayes? Nays, abstentions, conflicts? Good. Bill, Linda. Okay, so approved. What's next? Okay, Karen, could you give us an update?
That the committee met last week to talk through and approve from our committee standpoint. One is what's coming before you is the contract for the quality funds for childcare. And so that's coming to the board. 450,000 will go to Dallas College for CDAs, certificate programs, degree programs, apprenticeships. 2,454,081 will go to Child Care Group to support the mentors. 2,150,000 goes to Child Care Group to support TRS, and 5,144,167 will go to Child Care to support TRS providers and staff focusing on wage supplement. So that's one of the contracts for approval that's coming toward the board. I would just point you to how important that quality money is, and the metrics show that. Right now, we have 82% of all the providers in the system are actually TRS, and that's a great increase. And we actually have 29 providers that are currently waiting to be assessed in the TRS system. And then 88% of the children that we serve are actually now in a TRS center. So those are really good metrics that show how important that quality money is. The second contract that will be coming before you is the regular contract budget that will be with Child Care Group. This is the contract that actually goes to operations of the system, and also determines eligibility, the case management, compliance, and actually the payments to the providers for direct service. So both of those things will be coming, and the committee looked at that. The other major thing that we looked at was also looking at the waiting list. So currently the waiting list is 9,116 families. That is not children. That is 9,116 families. So again, a lot of the TWC problems with the database are being rectified, but there still are some problems. But hopefully that will continue. But we are currently, Child Care Group is currently taking children from the waiting list. The other thing we did talk about was the waiting list. because there is a priority with the waiting list. There's 2 tiers of the waiting list in terms of priority. And there was a change made in the past legislative session that said that if you are a child care worker working in a child care center, then you can be put on the priority waiting list. Now that sounds great on the surface, but the reality is that the priority 1 people on the waiting list, those are in choices, TANF, SNAP, they automatically get care. The other thing that is a little interesting is the priority 2 waiting list. Those are CPS, children of a veteran, children of foster youth, homelessness, and military deployment, teenage parents, and children with disabilities. But the interesting number there is right now, the homelessness priority list, there are 1,327 families on the priority waiting list for homeless is part of that number. So I think that's just worth bringing forward. But those are the main things we talked about. And those 2 contracts will be coming forward to you for approval.
Thank you, Karen. Your expertise in this matter is so invaluable, including your mastery of all the acronyms. Actually, moving on now to, we were going to have Demetri Robinson, but we're going to have Connie Rash instead go to the lectern and present to us about contracts and procurement. Or stay where you are. Yeah.
I'm Connie Rash. I'm presenting contracts for Demetria, and Richard's also doing some of them. But Demetri is online just in case I stumble on this. So if you look at page 20, we have the FY 2026 annual initial contract budgets. And the budgets were put together based on existing and proposed services, historical expenditure levels, available grant funds, and negotiated items. The board is a recipient of multiple grant funds, which are allocated and dispersed upon receipt. So if you look at the table below, this is kind of looking at the initial proposed contract budgets for fiscal year 2026, and that is for time period October 1, 2025 through September 30th, 2026. So the first one that we're asking for your approval is C2 Global Professional Services. They're a workforce system operations contract. C2 Global was approved in June, if y'all remember, as the new workforce system operator. They are currently working with Equus through transitional services, and this ensures a smooth transition without disruption in our workforce services. The annual initial budget for this first year is $18,863,773. This is a slight increase of 10% from Equus's FY25 contract budget. And that is mainly due to carryover funds from existing grants. So that's the first item. And I'm not sure if did you want me to take them all? Or do you want to take questions?
Yeah, go through all 3 of them, please.
Okay. The next one is Christine Wynn, CPA. She is our fiscal and program compliance monitoring. This is incredibly important because next week we have TWC state monitors coming. So it's incredibly critical that we have a quality external monitor. The budget is $405,040. This includes costs for fiscal and program compliance monitoring. Roughly, it's a 14% increase from the previous year, and this is due to special grants that have been added on. It's the RESEA and the PROUD grant. So these, as I mentioned, the services prepare us for the annual audits. And then the very last one, Karen mentioned in our presentation, is the child care services contract. This goes to Child Care Group, and they offer management and operations of child care services that cover all of Dallas County. As the Child Care Advisory Council was apprised of this, and it represents 6% of the total budget and direct payments to child care providers for the care of children of eligible parents who are working and or participating in training. The remaining 95% of the budget, I probably worded that wrongly based on the notes here, 5% from this year's allocation due to the increase of cost of quality care. This covers, this begins October 1. So any questions?
We should always have questions about almost $150 million in contracts. My question would be, we had a lot of questions about what C2 will do differently than Equus. What are we doing differently? How are we managing that? And do we have someone involved in the transition oversight?
We do. We are doing, Demetria and her team, as well as Ashley and myself, have been actively involved with C2 Global, kind of making sure it's a smooth transition. We've been working with them for policy and customer files, and it's a lot of things.
It's just a really good time to have some fresh eyes. And Shakib and his team is bringing a ton of ideas. We've been working very closely with him ever since you all voted for us to move that contract to C2, which doesn't begin until October 1st. So I think we'll really be able to hit the ground running. We're having weekly meetings between C2, Equus, and board staff so that we can ensure that there's a seamless transition to the customers. They really shouldn't see a change because it's workforce solutions that they're coming to, not Equus or C2 Global.
Thank you. Always in transition, assume that there's always something we haven't thought about.
Exactly.
And make sure. We'd like C2 to come before us on a routine basis to talk to us about how they're experiencing the transition. Any questions? Okay.
So it's a
Yeah.
recommendation.
Let's go ahead and vote at the end.
Okay. Richard is covering the other two items.
Yes, the first one I'll take is the 2026 local match for childcare. So every year, workforce boards are required to secure local match funds from the community in order to access federal funding for childcare direct care services. So for every dollar we can secure, we can draw down $2 from the federal government. So for fiscal year 2026, the total match is $4,068,945, and to date, we've secured $1,850,000, which is $700,000 from the city of Dallas, $1 million from Richardson ISD, and $150,000 from Irving ISD. We're going to continue to work to secure the remaining match dollars. But we have until January 31st, 2026 to do that. And if there's any questions, I can just go ahead and jump to the recommendation.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So the board staff recommends to accept the contribution for the match agreements as specified of $1,850,000 and to continue to provide this to direct care for eligible children. And let me go ahead and go to the next, which is the childcare quality contracts. Karen gave an excellent briefing on that, on the importance of that. So the quality goes to childcare group and Dallas College for $450,000 and childcare group for $2,454,081 and $7,244,167. The $7 million is for TRS activities, and the $2 million is for mentors. And it's critical for the childcare system. And if there's any questions, I can try to answer those. But I think we're ready for the recommendation on those.
Any questions? All right. Do I have a motion for authorization to contract in those two cases and then to accept the contribution for the match agreements? Anyone so move? Thank you, Joanne. Second, thank you, Lisa. All right, all say aye. Nay. Any abstentions based on conflicts? Thank you, Rolinda. Okay, so moved and passed. Now we move on to information updates. Is that correct? Oh, sorry, procurement.
It's me again.
Thanks, Connie.
All right, so if you look at page 22, we issued a procurement for information technology systems management through a managed service provider. We released the procurement on August 7th with the due date of September 4th. We received 4 timely responsive proposals via Bonfire. The 4 proposals included Arisma Group LLC, going by Scindian. They're located in Carrollton. Parker Data and Voice from Huntsville. QNet Managed Services Dallas, and Russell Solutions, Richardson, Texas. All 4 were evaluated by internal and external reviewers based on the scope of services proposed, demonstrative competence, and qualifications, experience, and costs. QNet Managed Services received the high score of 86. So that would be our recommendation. Board authorization to begin negotiations and contract with QNet Managed Services for information technology systems management through a managed service provider. If QNet is unable to meet contracted deliverables or specific project requirements, Scindian and Russell Solutions, the next highest scoring bidders, will be engaged as alternative providers. Any questions on that? Okay, sure.
So first of all, how much is this contract going to be?
It's a little over 500,000
That per annum?
per annum.
And secondly, we heard earlier that this is the primary service that's being provided is just desktop services. Did we try to get them to respond to a broader portfolio of services?
Yes, sir. We included in the procurement document additional services that kind of met our needs based on the TCF assessment, kind of addressing those issues.
And would those services be incorporated in the 500K?
Yes, sir.
And just give us a flavor. You talked about your scoring, but give us a flavor of why QNet.
The biggest thing with QNet is they were able to really respond the best to the procurement document. So their scope of services, their costs, their experience, everything matched up. But we do have alternatives if QNet is unable to meet their contract deliverables. Yes.
Was the scoring close or was it very
The-
clear?
It's pretty, there's a 10-point difference between the first and second, so. But they still met the 70 benchmark to be considered. Other questions on that?
My only concern is that it's not about QNet, it's about the services that, desktop services, that's pretty much a commodity. I mean, lots of entities can do that. But if we need broader array of services, like we discussed earlier during closed session, then that's the kind of vendor that I think we should be seriously considering.
Is there a world in which you have 2 because you have 2 different skill sets? Two providers.
We have thought about that, but what we thought that might be more difficult coordinating with 2 providers, that maybe give QNet a chance to see if they meet the contract deliverables, and if they're unable to, we go to the next.
To Ken's point, I keep my ears and eyes wide open about that to see if maybe there's not one vendor who does both.
We can set the contract up that way where, evaluating each quarter if they've met the deliverables, and we can report back on that.
Okay, and keeping our integrity of our information resources, which is a high priority, sort of our diver's helmet. Let's exhaust opportunities and solutions. Let's not just settle on one quickly. But with that in mind, any other questions or concerns? Okay, so a motion to give the authority to begin negotiations and contract with QNet with the comments in mind. Anyone move? Yep. Dupree. Second by Ken. All right, any ayes? All the nays? And abstentions and conflicts? Okay.
Next, we have a legislative update, which appears on page 24 of your board packet. As you know, federal workforce funding flows down from various departments, including the Department of Labor, Health and Human Services, through the Texas Workforce Commission, and then is ultimately allocated to the 28 boards. Right now, Congress is reviewing the fiscal year 2026 funding. The House Appropriations Subcommittee has approved a draft, but it still needs full House and Senate approval. The president's budget proposed consolidating WIOA, Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act funding, which is currently in 3 separate grants, adult, dislocated worker, and youth. The proposal is to consolidate those programs into a single grant. This is just a proposal at this point. The Senate's version largely preserves the traditional structure, but both of these have cuts involved. The final outcome is still pending. So the 2 charts that we have on this page include the numbers for the current year, that's the program year 2025 allocation, versus the prior year, program year PY 2024. Texas statewide funding is down roughly 10%, and Dallas County allocations are down about 6.5% overall. We received our WIOA grants on July 1st, 2025, and that money runs through June 30th, 2027. So historically, we would expect to see additional 2-year WIOA grants come in July 1st of 2026 to run through June 30th of 2028. That is the grant year that these discussions would affect. Now, at a meeting with TWC last week, they mentioned that they expect Congress will pass another continuing resolution to prevent a government shutdown October 1st so that funding will continue while negotiations finish. Key takeaway here is that despite reductions, we will continue serving our community effectively, and we're monitoring the federal process closely to keep you all updated. So same theme as last month, we're still playing the waiting game, but make sure and talk about what good things workforce does for our economy and how we need this WIOA funding.
Thank you, Ashley. Question?
Are there any champions or, I mean, who has been really helpful from the state level and federal for us?
Certainly. Well, we know that as a board, we cannot go out and lobby, but you can do it individually, personally. And then we belong to the Texas Association of Workforce Boards, the National Association of Workforce Boards, and that is who is really lobbying and also presenting the information and educating us as well. Yes, we can get you a list. TWC, the question was, would current funding be impacted if there was not a continuing resolution? I would expect a continuing resolution, but we have this funding, and TWC CFO has mentioned to us, we have it, we expect that it would continue at this point.
Thank you. Richard, I think you're up next. Your snapshot is one of my favorite things. I love it so much. I send it to my friends and family sometimes on a screenshot. Like, can you humor me today and just give me a snapshot of the snapshot? So give us the 1 or 2 takeaways that we need to know so we can keep on target.
Excellent. So I will do that. I try to highlight something a little different every month. So I took a picture or of the current active unemployment claimants and what their occupations were to see if there was any correlation to the top 10 job openings for the past 12 months. And there is some overlap. I think there is some positions that active UI claimants can move into. A lot of them are things like customer service and other types of, we'll call them just office type jobs that can work through. One other quick thing, I've noticed a slight decrease in the over the year job postings for August. I put a little chart. So there, it's slightly less than August 24 and 23, and then 22 and 21 were pandemic, and that's sort of not a great picture. But just a few less job postings. But if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Go ahead, Dan.
Thanks. I'm not sure there's a way to do this, but with all of the advancements in artificial intelligence and all the reports about the number of jobs that are going to be lost across the economy to AI, I mean, what do we do to kind of factor that in, or just kind of anticipate what the effect will be to the people served?
And I always think the way to handle that is to train, retrain, or work with individuals to get into the open positions, because there's always a change in maybe the technology or the occupations, what the focus is, and just moving them into that. I think that's one of the core functions of workforce development. And I'm going to touch on that just a little bit more with a return on investment model. But I think if that answers your question, I think that's what our role is.
I think it's great homework, Richard, to come back to our next meeting and have consume some white papers, put a précis together where we think AI is going to rob the most and where it will confer the most. Maybe it's a good topic as we go. It's a larger question that I think can be answered right now at the lectern. Okay, so let's move. Go ahead, Dupree.
It did come up in almost every interview. I mean, what are the ways that we can utilize that? And as we thought about the two biggest segments of our budget, one of those being upskilling, to your point, that was the consistent theme, is how do we take advantage of that and begin to figure out how to digitize that or find a way where employers do have the ability to upskill through some of those means to be able to change occupations. And I think that can be just about anything. It could be training for a hospitality job that you can do on your phone, where then you show up to Carolyn's Hotel. It's like, I already got it. I know the map. I know where I go. I know when I go to the back. I know what I'm supposed to wear. Those things are something that I'd love for us to really challenge that 10% of our budget to say, how do we get great at that?
Yep. Scary but exciting times. Thank you, Richard, so much. So now we move on to Rebecca on a QA update.
Morning. If you'll turn to page 32, I'll give a brief update on the fiscal and program monitoring. And the review for the SNAP program with Equus is final with no issues noted. Dallas College Youth Fiscal and Program Reviews, as well as the AEL reviews for Irving ISD, Richardson ISD, and Wilkinson Center are completed and awaiting the final reports. And the fiscal reviews for both Equus and Child Care Group are continuing, should be probably finished within the next month. If you look at the bottom of the chart, TWC conducted an equal opportunity review in November of 2024. They recently sent the final report for that. It was a very good report with only the one issue, as it always is, being the accessibility at the Garland Workforce Center. But as we know, we are going to be moving out of that facility. So the new one is accessible. In addition, as Connie mentioned, the TWC monitors will be doing their monitoring next week for the annual review. Any questions?
Thank you, Rebecca. It's good to see that green up there. Let's get them all green. To the extent we have control, I understand that TWC controls one of those centers that they're grading themselves on accessibility. Okay, so Rebecca, do we still have you on? Nope. Okay, so let's move on to Joanne on our governance committee update.
Great. Better? Okay. We talked about the survey results. First, I want to thank everybody. We had 21 responses to our survey on orientation, so really great feedback. And what we saw when we looked and sliced and diced it, and one of the questions, as you may recall, was when you took the orientation. And what was very interesting is there was really a very noticeable difference in responses and effectiveness of those who took the orientation after 2024 from those who took it beforehand. I mean, it was very, very interesting. So really a lot that we learned there. And some of the things that we learned is that really with the newer orientation that was provided by staff, that people felt much more confident in terms of and of their understanding of what the board does, what the board's obligations are, what the funding sources are, the ability to give an elevator speech, and to really be an advocate for workforce solutions. Prior to that, the numbers were actually pretty dismal in terms of people leaving the orientation, not really understanding any of that and not feeling comfortable about what the board does, what the funding is, and all of that. So really a great congratulations to the staff on that. There were some things that came out of this survey as well, though, in terms of things that can be done and just continuing needs of the board in terms of information, in terms of after the orientation, perhaps coming back and having another session as well. There also was a pretty big preference for in-person and group orientations as opposed to virtual. So I think we learned a lot, and the next orientation is probably going to be in January. And then all of the board members, not just the new board members, will be invited to that as well, so we can all refresh ourselves as well. So thank you again for everybody who filled out the survey, really a lot of great information. And if you want to dig down, we have some summaries that were done, but really just wanted to provide this summary here. The other two things I'll mention is that you should have gotten an email from Ashley on training that is required by the state with respect to conflict of interest training. That is due by the end of September. As Ashley said in her note, it is pretty quick to take it. It's just about 15 minutes, and then there's, I think, 10 questions to answer after the training. It's just a short video, probably about 10 minutes, and then you answer the questions. And if you don't get a passing score, you can take it right again as well after learning the answers that they give you. So I will admit, in this open forum, that's what happened to me, but I did learn from it. So we learn from our failures, I guess. So anyway, so really encourage you to do that and then get their certificates to Connie by September 30th so we can have 100% participation in that. The other thing we discussed, and this will be for a future board member meeting, is we do have in all of our bylaws, not only for the board, but for all of the committees, a requirement to do sort of a self-assessment, really talk about how we're doing, just where each committee or the board can improve as well. So we're really talking with Reed and outside counsel about how we can do that most effectively, and we'll have a process that we'll come to the board with. So thanks to everybody on the committee and for the time to give this update.
Thank you, Joanne. Before we adjourn, Ashley has something to tell us to help us and also scold us perhaps about parking.
Yes. Please make sure and get your parking validated before you leave. There's a QR code. A lady at that front desk, she'll help you. And you'll have to do it every time. And make sure if you've changed cars, that we update that license plate. We want to get your parking paid for. But if you have any struggles, just reach out to Connie or to me, and we'll get you taken care of. Also, at the back of your packet, we have several events coming up. You are invited to all of these. Please come if you're able. We have the Judges Job Fest coming up. Next Tuesday, we have Texas Career Day. So just reach out and let me know if you can make it. Love to see you there.
Thank you very much. We are adjourned.